The next item we're going to look at under Hubs is specific methods on specific connections. This allows sending of a message to a specific client and/or group. This can use the caller property or the indexer on the client's objects. Here's an example. Here we have the public class myHub deriving from the hub, and we have a method called send, which is sending data back to the client side, and we're using caller.addMessage and passing the data. The add message is actually a JavaScript function that exists on the client side that we are calling from the server side. The caller property is built into SignalR, meaning that whoever is making the request on the client side, that is who this message is going to be executed for. The other way is using the indexer, which would allow you to use the client's object and do like clients square brace context.connection ID in square brace add message pass data. It's a little more verbose, but if you needed granular detail and other things as opposed to sending to the person that is requesting the message, then that's the way you would go. So let's look into Visual Studio and see how we accomplish this. Okay, back in Visual Studio, let's go ahead and look at our view. If you did the previous item, which was server calling client function, and we did a show alert here, go ahead and comment out the actual alert line, otherwise we're going to get that alert every single time we run the page. Just so you know, it's still called the function, it just won't show that alert. So the first thing we want to do to show how to call methods on specific connections, we want to go to myHub, and we will go ahead and add to this send class. So what we're going to do is say we can do caller dot add message, which calls the JavaScript function, and we're going to pass the message along. So what this does is this is saying specific to the connection. So in other words, if user 1 sends a message, only user 1 is going to receive a response back from the server, where user 2 and 3 would not see this. Up here, when we say clients.addMessage, calling the same function, but this is telling SignalR to broadcast the message to everybody. The other way of doing this individual caller is by doing more of a verbose method, which you could say clients and do context connection ID, and you say add message, and then of course the message. So that's a different way of calling it. Again, it's more verbose, and I'll go ahead and leave that, but I'll comment that out. So by leaving everything in here, we should actually get 2 messages back to whoever provides the message. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit Control F5, and we will see this in the browser. Go to Hubs, make sure it works. So there's test 1. Alright, and then we got 2 responses just like we thought we would. Okay, so let's do this, and let's open up Google Chrome and Internet Explorer as well, and let's copy the web address here. Enter. Go ahead and hit enter. Okay, so they currently don't have anything, and here I'm going to do a test 2. So Internet Explorer should get 2 responses, while Firefox and Google Chrome should only receive 1. Okay, so we got 1 there, 2 there, and 1 there. Okay, now let's try the same thing with Google Chrome. Go say test 3. So Google Chrome should get 2, Internet Explorer 1, Firefox 1. And again, the reason why whoever has the message originate from them gets 2 while everybody else only gets 1 is because of this right here. The first one goes out to everybody. clients.addMessage calls the JavaScript function and sends that message out to everybody that's connected. This guy down here, caller.addMessage, runs the same JavaScript function, but this says, hey, limit this response only to the person that had given me data, so I'm only talking to that person. And again, this does the exact same thing that this does right here, where it makes it unique to whoever it's talking to. So this has been an example of using specific methods on specific connections. The next item that we're going to look at in the hubs is group management. This allows connections to be put into groups and then send messages to those particular groups. Here's some code. Here we have a public class of myHub that derives from the hub from SignalR. Below, we have 3 tasks: join, send, and disconnect. In the first task, we are returning the groups object with the add method. Within that, we are passing the context of the connection ID, and then we're assigning it to the east group. In the send task, we are returning the client's object using the indexer to tell it that we want the group east, and then we're executing the client-side function of addMessage and passing the message along. The third task, disconnect, we are returning the client's object. Using the indexer, we are telling it we want the east group, and then we're executing the leave method and passing the context of the current connection ID along. Let's look into Visual Studio and see how this is done. Back in Visual Studio, the first thing that we want to do is go to myhub.cs, and we're going to add the iDisconnect, so we can derive from that. For our send that we did earlier, let's just go ahead and select all that, and we'll just comment it out for now. And we're going to make some new ones for our grouping, or groups that we're going to deal with. So public, task, join, it's going to be our first one. And let's go say return groups.add context connection ID. And then we use east in the persistent connection, so this time we use west as our group name, just to be fair. And let's see, I think this wants to be, yes, it is happy now. We resolve that. Okay, so now we're going to say public task send our message. By now you should be used to seeing those tasks and messages everywhere. Okay, let's see. So we want to do a return clients, and we're using the indexer now, so we want to say west. Let's say add message. That's our JavaScript side function there that we're calling. Go pass in the message. Pretty straightforward. Okay, and one last class or task. So public task disconnect. So what to do when you disconnect? We will tell it. So return clients for the west group. I'm going to say .leave, which is a SignalR function. So context.connection ID. So basically it's going to drop this connection ID out of the group defined as west here. Okay, let's save. Now let's go to our hubs. Now one thing that we do have to do is that now that we're using groups, we want to identify what group this person belongs to when we start. So we can actually provide a function within the hub connection.hub.start method, or function rather. So we can do this, and it's simply going to be myhub.join. That is a client to server call right there. And what that's going to do is it's going to say join. It's going to go here to my hub, run this, and then it's going to say, okay, well I've got the current connection ID, so I'm going to add them to the group west. and then push it back. So that means that I'll be able to send and I will receive all the messages that get pushed out to the group for West. So let's go ahead and hit Control F5. Run this in our Firefox. Go to Hubs. And I'll turn on Firebug just to show what's going on in the background. You can see that's already done a get and a post. And that's good that it didn't throw any errors, so that means that it should work here. And sure enough, there it is. So test 2 and test 3 last. Okay, you see that it is successful on every post that went through. So definitely good signs, and that means that our adding groups was successful and a lot less painful than it was in persistent connections. So if you're going to use groups, Hubs is the way to go. Now we're going to look at return types from the hub. All data returning from the hub is automatically serialized into JSON and then handed off to the client. Optionally, you can also return task or task with generic from a hub if you need to have async work done. Here's an example of code. Here we have a public class of product with two properties, name and isActive. Then we have my hub, which is deriving from the hub from SignalR, and then below that we are passing the product class with our send instead of normally doing a task. And then we're returning a new product, name equals Pepsi and isActive equals true, as our data being passed to the client side. So let's look into Visual Studio and see how we use these custom return types. So in Visual Studio, let's just go ahead into myhub.cs, and we will go ahead and comment out the iDisconnect and that we use for the groups. And we'll also comment out our grouping that we used. Let's see. Okay, and we're going to uncomment our original code here. Actually, you know what? We'll leave that our original code commented out, and we'll just write at the bottom here. So for return types, we'll just do this in the code, and just to show you how this works. So we do a public class, and we could say we have a product, and give it a few variables. So say public string name get set public int, let's say category ID get set. So we defined our quick model, and now actually, you know what, that is in here. This should be actually up here. There we go. That's better. Okay, so now that we've defined that up there, basically we would just override the send method. So we could say public product send string data and return new product, and this would just all get serialized. So Coke, because I think I did Pepsi last time, and category ID equals 1. So this is a quick example of how to use return types to send back a type other than like just sending a message. Pretty straightforward. Just have your model, like I have the class product model here, and I'm just using that right here, and then I'm actually passing values for that model back. So this has been a very quick example of return types in SignalR for the hubs.